Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of WrestleMania 41 Saturday. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. Night one of WrestleMania's main event was a triple threat match. Roman Reigns versus CM Punk versus Seth freaking Rollins. NoDQ.com had a special stipulation for the No DQ review. The winner would become the moderator for the No DQ review on April 22nd, this coming Tuesday. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let's get to WrestleMania. We kicked off the show, Las Vegas, Nevada, Allegiant Stadium. We had Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against main event Jey Uso, or in this case, opening match Jey Uso. Jey had the Las Vegas Raiders cheerleaders and people waving yeet flags for his entrance. Gunther just had the basic entrance. He's not all about that pomp and circumstance. What did you guys think about this match? I've seen some mixed opinions on this one. I think it was a good opening match, but it did not really feel like a world title match. To me, it felt like an intercontinental title match. That's what it felt like. Didn't have that main event vibe. It was the opening match after all. Jey was very aggressive, and Gunther actually had to retreat to the outside of the ring. Gunther was able to eventually get the upper hand. He powerbombed Jey. Jey was able to kick out of that. And then Jey countered another powerbomb attempt with a spear. He came off the top with an Uso splash. Gunther, though, kicked out of that. And then Gunther was starting to feel desperate. Gunther grabbed his championship. He struck Jey in the head while the referee wasn't looking. And then Gunther came off the top with his own splash. Jey, though, kicked out. And then Gunther applied the sleeper hold. However, Jey was able to get out of that. And then Jey made his big comeback. Jey, he powerbombed Gunther. And then he delivered several super kicks, the spear, and then he had to go even further. He came off the top with not one, not two, but three Uso splashes, and then he applied a sleeper hold on Gunther, and then Gunther immediately tapped out. Like, he tapped out in about 3 seconds after being put in this hold, which really shocked me, and I think the crowd was caught off guard by how abrupt this finish was. I think maybe Gunther should have been in the hold a little bit longer before tapping. It did feel like you didn't let the crowd anticipation build up. You just did it so suddenly, and the crowd was like, wait, what happened? I would have preferred if they let it cook for like 10, 15 seconds, and then the crowd's building up the anticipation, and Gunther's like teasing that he's going to tap, and then he finally does. I think they could have executed this finish a little bit better. I like the idea of Gunther losing to that move, especially after what he did to Jimmy, but I think it could have been executed a little bit better. It did feel like a glorified Raw match. It didn't quite feel like a world title match at WrestleMania, but we did get the feel-good moment. It, in a way, gave me vibes of John Cena versus JBL from WrestleMania 21. I was there for that show, and I remember feeling like it was a glorified TV match, and that's how I felt about this. But we did get the big moment for Jey Uso becoming the world champion. I expected it. It pretty much went out as I figured it would. It played out the way I figured it would. It did make Gunther look a little bit weak, but they're going all out on Jey Uso. He did, in fact, win the Royal Rumble. So I'm not objecting to him winning the title and having a run. I just wonder if maybe they could have executed that finish a little bit differently. I'm seeing lots of different opinions in the chat room. People saying the finish was out of nowhere. Mr. Tito sent in a $2 super chat. Shout out to Cheeto. Tito. He's not Chester Cheeto or whatever his name is from the Cheetos brand. He's Mr. Tito. Maybe we could have Mr. Tito versus Mr. Cheeto at some point. But Mr. Tito sent in a $2 super chat and says, what finishers actually beat anyone now? Jeez. Yeah, that's a great question. And in this match, they were definitely doing the finisher spam, the spear, the Uso splash, the power bomb. Everybody's kicking out. But it is WrestleMania. I think the real problem is when they do these types of matches on your random shows. Like if you're going to do it, WrestleMania is the place to do it and have people kicking out of all the finishers. Shout out to WWE Fan 2000 GEO, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. Says, do you think this was the best triple threat main event in WrestleMania history? Or was it WrestleMania 20, 30, or 37, as they were all great matches? This is recency bias, but I think this may have been the greatest triple threat in WrestleMania history. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. It is certainly up for debate, and we will discuss that in more detail later. Of course, there is the recency bias, but I'll give my thoughts on that triple threat in just a little bit. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for the super chat. And those were great triple threats. 20 is one of the all-time best, but of course it's lost in history because of Chris Benoit. WrestleMania 30 was a huge moment with Bryan Danielson winning the championship. Let's get to some other super chats here. The This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, This Guy. I appreciate it. Says, MI said Jimmy versus Jey title match tapped too quickly. Basically, this guy is saying the tap out happened too fast, and maybe we are going to see a Jimmy versus Jey title match at some point. You never know, although that match from last year's WrestleMania wasn't the best received WrestleMania match. I could see them potentially doing that again at some point, though. You never know. Maybe they'll do a match where they're friends, they're allies, they're brothers, and it's not going to be a heat-in match. It'll be more best friend versus best friend type of match. I mean, they might do another one. You never know. Shout out to Liam, who sent in a $9.99 or $10 euro super chat. Thank you for that, Liam. Says, with Jey Uso winning, either Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman helped John Cena for number 17 to break the record, or it wouldn't surprise me if John Cena beats Jey on Raw after Mania, considering Rock can make matches. Yes, we have The Rock, who is around somewhere. Apparently he's in Hawaii, but we'll have to see if Rock shows up on night 2 of WrestleMania. Jey Uso definitely has a lot of potential opponents for the world title. We'll talk more about that in the coming days. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we'll talk more about who might help John Cena, if anybody, on night 2. So stay tuned. Roger B sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Roger B. I appreciate it. Says, why was Spring Break better than night 1? Shaking my head. He's talking about AEW Dynamite, and I do think Dynamite was better than most of WrestleMania. I will say that. I will give AEW credit for that. Their free episode of Dynamite was better than the bulk of WrestleMania, but not all of it, in my opinion. Let's move on here. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for the super chats. And I will try to get to them as quickly as possible and in a timely fashion. If you send me a super chat about the main event, I might not answer it till the end. So keep that in mind. Let's move on here to the next match, which was the War Raiders versus the New Day for the World Tag Team titles. This match was basically a TV match. I would say that the AEW Dynamite had better matches than this one for sure. It really needed a stipulation, I think. They did that match on TV a few weeks ago, and it should have been some kind of a stipulation, like a cage match or a ladder match. I don't know. It just didn't feel like that big of a deal. And as Ian pointed out, not much crowd heat for this one. And can you really blame them? I mean, this match basically had no buildup. There was really no reason to care about this. And I feel like WWE kind of just dropped the ball with the New Day heel turn and allowed them to cool off by not focusing on them and building them up more than they had been. It was basically your standard tag team match here. I mean, it really could have just been a main event of Monday Night Raw. And you had the hot tag and the breakdown with everybody in the ring. And then the New Day hit their daylight double team finisher, and Xavier pinned Ivar while Kofi was on the outside holding down Ivar's foot so he couldn't kick out. A little bit of cheating from the New Day, but beyond that, a pretty clean win for them. And it was the right call, New Day winning the tag team titles, but I think it was maybe a month or two too late. They should have done it sooner, and if they were going to wait to WrestleMania, New Day should have been built up a lot more, and they should have had more segments to get this storyline hot and make the titles feel important, which WWE really did not do. So it felt a little bit flat. Should have been a bigger deal than it was, in my opinion. No Big E involvement, just New Day winning the titles. Could have been on Raw. Next up, we had Naomi versus Jade Cargill. Naomi had new entrance music with her caution attire. This was a change of pace for Naomi, more of a rock song than what she's been using. Remember, her old song was EDM, and then her last song was like EDM/pop, and this was more rock-oriented for Naomi. It was still a fairly generic Def Rebel song, but I kind of liked the change a little bit. It's something she needed, changing her presentation, including her music. I'm all for that. Jade Cargill had a little bit of a special entrance. They had a vignette with a weatherman outside the stadium. I thought that was kind of a cool thing. I like the WrestleMania entrances. They're usually interesting. I liked the set. They basically built a hotel. I think I don't know the name of it, but it's the hotel that WWE is affiliated with. I think it's like the official hotel of WrestleMania. I thought it was a cool set. And they actually had people, they had a section of people in seats as part of the set, which I don't recall them ever doing before. So I liked it. I did like the set for this year's WrestleMania. Anyways, this match was all right. Another TV match, or could have been like a B pay-per-view match. It really didn't feel like a WrestleMania level match. But Jade was all right. I see some people giving her a hard time, saying she didn't look that good. But you know what? There was a point where Naomi was coming off the top and Jade caught her in midair and did a jackhammer. That takes a lot of strength, and I thought Jade did a really good job with that. That was probably the most memorable spot of the match. And I did think it was solid, but not too spectacular. And Jade was able to kick out of Naomi's offense, like the split-legged moonsault. And then Naomi went for a kick. Jade was able to dodge that. And then she hit the power bomb, followed by the Jaded, and got the 1-2-3 victory. Went about as I expected. Good match, solid undercard match. Nothing too spectacular, though. Nice win for Jade, and hopefully Naomi can rebound from that, and they'll keep pushing her. Moving on here, we had LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. I missed the mark on this one. I took a chance with my prediction, and I went with LA Knight, thinking maybe Solo Sikoa would interfere and the interference would backfire or something like that. But there was no interference. Solo Sikoa was out there on the stage, but then he went to the back, and we never saw Solo Sikoa again. And it was at this point that I knew my prediction was going to be wrong. This was a pretty good match. I actually thought this might have been the best match of the show up to this point. The crowd heat was pretty good for this one. It was back and forth, not one-sided. LA Knight got in a lot of offense on Fatu, and Fatu did some of his moves. LA Knight showed off some strength. He managed to come off the top of the flying elbow, and then he gave Fatu a suplex from the top rope. Fatu kicked out again, and then Fatu did the hip attacks. He hit a swanton bomb. LA Knight kicked out of that, and then LA Knight countered a moonsault attempt in midair with the BFT. However, Fatu was able to grab the rope to break the count, and then Fatu regained the upper hand, and then he came off the top with an avalanche Samoan drop to LA Knight, and then did not one, but two moonsaults to pick up the clean 1-2-3 victory and become the new United States champion. His first WrestleMania, his first championship. Kind of felt like John Cena when John Cena beat the Big Show. Is Jacob Fatu the future of WWE? Certainly looks like he's a strong contender. I enjoyed the match. I think it was very good, and I think it was technically better than the opening match. So I think this was the best match of the night up to this point. And I'm fine with Jacob Fatu winning. I was wrong with my prediction, but he's the future of WWE. LA Knight is past 40. You got to go with the youth. So there you have it. I'm happy with the result. Great moment for Jacob Fatu. And the Bloodline. Bloodline, big night for them. Jey Uso won the world title, and Jacob Fatu won the U.S. title. Next up, we had what was supposed to be Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. However, Rey Mysterio was injured at SmackDown, and unfortunately, he was not cleared for WrestleMania. Really sucks. I mean, I guess it's a risk when you put a 50-year-old guy out there on TV in a match one night before WrestleMania. You're taking a chance. And he did get hurt. Sucks for Mysterio, but a nice moment for Rey Fenix, who got to be part of WrestleMania. And he wasn't booked for WrestleMania, and all of a sudden he's in a spot in WrestleMania. I enjoyed the match. I felt it was a little bit on the short side. It did feel like another TV match, and again, maybe because it was so short notice, they didn't have time to do a longer match. You had Vikingo out there, who's from AAA, and that was one of the big news stories today. WWE has acquired AAA, and they're going to be doing a Worlds Collide event, basically WWE's version of Forbidden Door, an NXT and AAA joint show coming up. I believe it's June 7th, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Vikingo was at ringside for this match. El Grande Americano had a great entrance. He had a mariachi band playing himself to the ring. And he got in Vikingo's face. He shoved him, and Vikingo kicked him right in the face. And this was before the match even started. It was a good match. Not great or anything. I would have liked to have seen these guys go like another 5-10 minutes. Maybe they would have been able to have a classic WrestleMania match. But yeah, it felt a little bit lackluster for being a WrestleMania match. It was still good, though. Good match, but could have been a Raw TV match. Kind of the theme of the night here for WrestleMania. It was back and forth, but then the tide turned when Americano used his plate, his steel plate that he puts inside his mask, and you had Fenix going for the what's that move he does? The kick, the goodbye amigo, and he did the kick, but he hurt his leg in the process because he kicked the steel plate, and then Americano put on the ankle lock. Fenix was able to counter out of that, but then Americano headbutted him with the loaded mask and then came off the top of the flying headbutt and got the 1-2-3 victory. I'm happy that Fenix got a WrestleMania match and El Grande Americano won in his first WrestleMania match. It was good. Not great, but solid. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, maybe we get Chad Gable at Worlds Collide unmasking. That's not a bad idea, actually. Maybe they'll do a rematch. I think Rey Mysterio may have had a torn groin. I'm not sure what the exact injury was, but maybe Rey Mysterio or Rey Fenix can fight Gable at Worlds Collide and they unmask Gable there. That would be cool. I like that idea, Building Nexus. That's a good one. Roger B sent in a $2 super chat, and thank you all for the super chats. Much appreciated. Says, Triple H didn't care about the internet, and the build sucked. Hey, Triple H is in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer. He knows what he's doing. We can all say Triple H doesn't have what it takes anymore, but a lot of people are talking about WrestleMania right now, and I do see some positive things about WrestleMania. I will give my overall thoughts on the show here at the end and my takeaway from night one. But Triple H is going to do what he's going to do. You know, he's going to listen to the majority of the fans, and as long as they're selling tickets and people are watching, you know, they're going to go with what they think is the right move. And if the internet doesn't like it, as far as Triple H is concerned, too bad. They're running a business. All right, next up we had, by the way, Vikingo got in the ring and helped up Rey Fenix. I'm thinking we're going to see Vikingo do something with these guys at Worlds Collide. What about Alberto Del Rio? He's been working in AAA. Does this mean Alberto Del Rio somehow gets back into WWE? That would be wild. If Alberto Del Rio is at that event, that could be very interesting. But at this point, maybe WWE feels they can do whatever they want and they can bring back Alberto Del Rio and the fans will have to deal with it. I don't know. All right, next up we had Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair for the Women's Championship. By the way, I forgot to mention LA Knight had a fancy car entrance. He was driven to the ring, or not the ring, the stage in a car, and Charlotte Flair did the same thing. I was a little confused by that, why they did the car entrance twice. Tiffany Stratton had a Barbie entrance, which was cool. I mean, it's not my demo, but you know, it was good for her. The match was okay, I guess. I did feel like it was a bit sloppy and, you know, they were brawling with each other, but I feel like some of the moves didn't look all that good. And it was fairly slow paced. I just didn't think it was as good as it could have been. I don't know what the deal was, but I think it could have been a lot better. I don't know if they just didn't have the chemistry in the ring, but it wasn't a great match, and it certainly wasn't a WrestleMania caliber match. It was very competitive back and forth, and Charlotte was getting a lot of boos, and she did the Stephanie Valkyrie knee drops and doing the submissions like the Boston Crab. She yelled "Get up, bitch" at Tiffany, which was probably the highlight of the match. Actually, they were fighting back and forth. Charlotte slapped her. Tiffany would fight back, and she was targeting Tiffany's knee. She put on the figure 4, but Tiffany attacked Charlotte's knee. Remember, Charlotte had the bad knee, the surgically repaired knee, so Tiffany targeted that. She went for the prettiest moonsault ever, but Charlotte got her knees up, and then Charlotte came off the top with a natural selection. Looked a little sloppy. Tiffany kicked out of that, and then Tiffany regained the upper hand and then hit the moonsault successfully and got the 1-2-3 victory. I was also wrong about this one, but I'm happy to be wrong. I'm glad Tiffany won the match. Apparently she lost a tooth or got a tooth chipped. Something happened. She got busted up there. A little disappointing of a match. Second to last match, you would hope that it would be top tier, but I don't think it was. I do think it was the right result, though. I'm glad Tiffany retained. MJF, the Dark Horse, sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. MJ, the Dark Horse, says, wrestling was killed in the first match and revived in the main event. Great tribute to the Holy Week. Huh. Yeah, up until the main event, I think WrestleMania was a bit lackluster. I mentioned it earlier. Some of these matches felt like Raw TV matches. It felt like a B pay-per-view up until the main event. You had the WrestleMania vibe with the stadium, but it just didn't feel like WrestleMania. It was like a B pay-per-view. But then we had the main event. And this often happens at WrestleMania. You look back historically. WrestleMania can be saved with one match. Bret Hart versus Steve Austin from 13. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker from 25. Hogan versus The Rock from 18. And this year, they did it again. The main event made WrestleMania. This was a match worthy of being on the WrestleMania card, and not just on paper, but the build, people were having mixed feelings about the build, but I think it delivered big time. And Tito, I know they're doing all the finishing moves, but this is the main event of WrestleMania. This is when you do it. When Steve Austin and The Rock were kicking out of all the finishers and reversing the moves and using each other's moves, that was the main event of WrestleMania. It was special. And then when they started doing it every single pay-per-view in multiple companies, at that point, yeah, it's overdone. But this is when you do it. This is the time to do it in the main event of WrestleMania. So let's talk about it. Seth Rollins came out there, did the flamethrower, which is very interesting. A lot of people brought up how this is what The Rock did last year. Is this foreshadowing? Stay tuned. He also changed his attire mid-entrance, which I thought was pretty cool. I liked that. Roman Reigns came out with a very basic entrance, although they did have images of the Samoan dynasty. You had pictures of the Samoans, the Wild Samoans, Yokozuna. I thought that was a nice entrance. CM Punk, though, had the entrance. So over the top, like I figured he was losing. They had a video package. He was recreating his first ECW promo in 2006. They had This Fire Burns playing playing, which I loved. I thought that was a great touch. And then they had Living Color out there doing the entrance once again, which was really cool. Paul Heyman out there with CM Punk, and the fans popped big for when the bell rang. Right off the bat, they were into it. You knew this match was going to be something special. The crowd heat was kind of up and down, but down to quite a degree during this show. They were red hot for the main event. So I really liked the vibe when this match got started, and they were brawling all over the place. They fought in the crowd for a while, and then Reigns jumped over the barricade onto CM Punk and Seth Rollins. And then they got back in the ring. We had a doomsday device with CM Punk coming off the top. Reigns had Rollins on his shoulder. That was cool. And then Rollins countered Roman's spear with a pedigree, hit the curb stomp, but Reigns was able to kick out. And then Punk hit the GTS to Reigns. Reigns kicked out of that. And then Rollins wanted Reigns to work with him. He wanted them to do the Shield powerbomb to Punk through the announce table. Reigns teased helping out Rollins, but then punched Rollins, and then he powerbombed Punk through one table. He powerbombed Rollins through another table, and then he got Rollins back in the ring, hit the spear. Rollins kicked out of that, and then they all exchanged submission holds, back and forth with the submissions. They each hit their own finisher, and then all three men were down. And at this point, Paul Heyman grabbed the steel chair, and this is when the shenanigans were coming. Paul Heyman had the chair. Both Reigns and Punk wanted the chair. Heyman ended up sliding the chair over to CM Punk. He got in the ring. He stood right behind Punk, and you knew it was coming at this point. Like, it was very well telegraphed, the old Vince Russo swerve. And sure enough, Heyman gives CM Punk the low blow, betraying CM Punk after all this history between them. WWE very conveniently left out the betrayal from 2013 for good reason, because they were doing it here and they didn't want you to think, well, Heyman already betrayed CM Punk. So they were very careful with that to not show that old footage. Heyman betrayed CM Punk, and then he handed the chair over to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was very happy. He used the chair on CM Punk, and then Heyman pointed over to Rollins. He told Reigns to go for that chair shot. Roman Reigns wanting to do that steel chair shot to the back of Seth Rollins. You know, there's the whole history with that. But then Heyman betrayed his tribal chief. He gave Roman Reigns the low blow, and then he handed the chair over to Seth Rollins. Rollins used the chair. He hit Reigns in the back with the chair again, hit him with the curb stomp, and then got the 1-2-3 victory. Seth Rollins has sold out to Paul Heyman. Big moment here to close out WrestleMania. And we talked about this when we predicted the show. I was foolish. I changed my prediction, and I shouldn't have done it, because they made Rollins look so strong on Raw and on SmackDown. I outsmarted myself. I should have just gone with Seth Rollins, because we did talk about this, the double betrayal, Heyman going with Rollins. This was something we definitely talked about, and I outsmarted myself with the predictions and changed my pick. I shouldn't have done it. It was very well executed. As we talked about on the predictions video, Rollins really needed something like this. You know, the heel turn, you know, there's only so long you can do the singing of the song. Rollins needed a change. Reigns is probably going away for a while. Now Punk has reason to be angry and go for revenge. This was something they really needed. Now Rollins can go after Jey Uso. But, we talked about this earlier. What about night 2? I mentioned the flamethrower. Is Seth Rollins going to help John Cena? And we are going to get that modern day 2-man power trip. John Cena and Seth Rollins with Paul Heyman and The Rock masterminding everything. Is that what we're getting now? I'm very intrigued about what happens on night 2 of WrestleMania now. I wonder if that flamethrower is the little clue for night 2. Excellent main event. Arguably the best triple threat match in WWE history. They had a lot to live up to. They hyped it up as being the most important triple threat. And they delivered a massive turn from Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is, naturally a heel. And Rollins has needed the turn. This made WrestleMania. This was top tier stuff. This was a top tier main event on, up until this point, a very average WrestleMania. We got some super chats here. Let me get to the super chats. Seth Rollins sent in $2. Seth Rollins said, "Ha ha ha ha, I win." That's right. Seth Rollins won. Despite being booked as the dominant participant leading up to the show, he still pulled off the victory. The This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. This guy says, undercard never left first gear. Triple H told them to. I mean, a lot of times the idea is that you don't want the undercard to outshine the main event. So that very well could have been the case. But this is WrestleMania. They should be going all out for WrestleMania more than they do. It's not just your random B pay-per-view. It's your Super Bowl. And some of those fans paid thousands of dollars to be there. Give them the absolute best show possible. Don't hold back at all. Now, maybe they're saving some higher impact matches for night 2, but NXT Stand and Deliver outshined most of this WrestleMania card, other than the main event. AEW Dynamite outshined everything but the main event. I say the main event was top of everything because I'll remember this main event for years. Like, this will go down as an all-time WrestleMania classic. A lot of the matches on Dynamite, yeah, Takeshita and Ospreay always have great matches. It's nothing too memorable. They're all blend together. But this story that they told with Heyman, we're always going to remember it. Shout out to Danny, who sent in a $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, do you think that they can make Seth Rollins heel? I think people will still like Seth. I wonder if they will change his music, because the music is over. The music gets a crowd pop. I have to think that they will change it. I'm worried about Def Rebel ruining him, but I think he will get some new music. You change his music up. Maybe he stops wearing all the flamboyant clothing. He just changes things up. That's what Rollins does. Rollins knows how to tweak his character. He's one of the best at that. So I think they'll make it work. And the crowd loves Roman Reigns and CM Punk so much. I think it'll be easy for Rollins to go back to being a heel. He can do it. He can do either role that they need him to do. Shout out to Hamp Connell. Hamp is typically very critical of WWE on these streams. Hamp sent in a $5 super chat, says, look like Seth Rollins is bringing back the Monday Night Messiah, and I'm all for it. He has been so boring since he dropped that gimmick. Well, there you go. Some positivity from Hamp Connell. Like I said, Hamp has said some negative things about WWE. Hamp has an optimistic opinion coming out of this show. There you go. Shout out to Stefan, who sent in a £2 or €2 super chat. Thank you for that. I think it's euro. Says SummerSlam, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell, and CM Punk versus John Cena. I like that idea a lot, and I think that's a realistic possibility. We all know Roman Reigns likes to take his post-WrestleMania break, and we got to get Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins one-on-one to really settle their rivalry. And then, of course, they did tease CM Punk versus John Cena, and I think it's just a matter of time. That could be SummerSlam, because I'm thinking Randy Orton will be in line for a John Cena match at Backlash, but we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow night. We'll see how things play out for night 2. I think that would be a great idea for SummerSlam, both of those matches. We got to get a Hell in a Cell with Rollins and Reigns for sure. And Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, says, do you think we get Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman tomorrow? I would love it if Seth Rollins and John Cena are the new two-man power trip with Paul Heyman and The Rock is overseeing everything. I think that's a great heel faction. I would be a big fan of that. So I think there's a decent chance. I really wonder if that flamethrower was done intentionally to give us a little clue. This is something we talked about on the No DQ review, like John Cena having an ally other than The Rock, because The Rock is not going to be around. I think it would be cool to have John Cena align himself with somebody for the remainder of this run. And remember that two-man power trip with Austin and Triple H got cut short due to Triple H being injured. Maybe Triple H wants to try to recreate that storyline and hopefully not have any injuries and let it play out. So we'll see what happens. Roger B sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Roger. Thank you for that. Says, have heel Rollins squash Jey Uso and win the title. That might happen, and then that can be the title match for SummerSlam. Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm a fan. I would not have a problem with that whatsoever. As I said, maybe Jey Uso's run will be relatively short, and Rollins will be the one to take the title off of Jey. Shout out to Maddie, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Maddie. I appreciate it. Says, came to say Dynamite was amazing and thanks for the rating. Yeah, Maddie, there you go. Maddie was calling me out for being too critical of Dynamite. I gave Dynamite a very high score this past week. I think Dynamite was fantastic. And really, this week was great for wrestling. Dynamite was awesome. NXT was awesome. And the main event of WrestleMania Night 1 was awesome. Rest of the show, like I said, was okay. I'll give my point for WrestleMania, or my points, in just a moment here. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Building Nexus. Says, John Cena versus CM Punk for Money in the Bank. I don't even know where Money in the Bank is, but I really think they should save Cena and Punk for SummerSlam. Keep in mind, this is at MetLife Stadium, 2 nights. They gotta fill up that place. So you got to put your biggest matches at SummerSlam. You can't be giving that away at Money in the Bank. I really feel like it needs to be SummerSlam. MJ the Dark Horse sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, Cena told Rhodes everything you can to win. That's Rollins to perfection. Cena and Rollins together, calling it now. That's a very good point. John Cena mentioned that on SmackDown, and that's what Rollins did. Rollins did whatever it took to win. And he didn't sell out. He bought in, as Rollins himself would say. I would love to see it. I don't want to set myself up for disappointment, but I really hope night 2 ends with a bang. Maybe The Rock does show up. I feel like Austin's not going to do anything. Austin was, by the way, on this show as part of the Hall of Fame segment. He was out there with Bret Hart. He did the middle finger. No Lex Luger, though. I'm not sure why Luger wasn't there. Maybe Luger had a personal appearance and he's getting paid good for that, so he didn't show up for WrestleMania. Who knows? But yeah, I wonder if we're getting no Austin, but let's not rule out The Rock. I know he posted a video of himself in Hawaii, but people can post videos saying they're somewhere when they're thousands of miles away, totally in the realm of possibility. He could just be throwing people off. Whatever the case is, I want a big ending for WrestleMania, and I just don't want to be disappointed with it. So I'm trying to not get too crazy here, but I would love Seth Rollins and John Cena standing tall with Paul Heyman at the end of WrestleMania. That would be a great ending. And even better if The Rock was there too, and it was all of them together at the end over a beaten Cody Rhodes. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. Says, Aaron, have I ever been on the review and do I praise AEW? Set Tito straight for me, please. Hamp, you haven't been on the review, and I would love to have you on, but that's up to the moderator, Gino. Papa Gino, are we going to get Hamp on the No DQ review? You guys got to connect. Let's make it happen. I want Hamp on the No DQ review so he can set Tito straight on the video stream. And speaking of Mr. Tito sent in a $2 super chat. By the way, Tito just posted his No DQ column reviewing WrestleMania 41 Saturday. It's up on NoDQ.com. When you're done watching this, go over to No DQ and check out Mr. Tito's recap of WrestleMania Saturday, WrestleMania 41 Night 1. Tito says Hamp is on No DQ video several times, marks for AEW. Well, he's in the stream, and he usually criticizes WWE. I don't recall him praising AEW all that much. I mean, he just criticizes WWE. But yes, I would love to actually have Hamp on a review stream. This Tuesday would be awesome, but I don't even know if we're booked up already. And speaking of that, so it is official. Papa Gino is going to be the moderator for the No DQ review this Tuesday as a result of Seth Rollins picking up the victory. But I believe Virtue will be back on Tuesday. He will not be moderating, though. It will be Gino as the moderator. Papa Gino said he's going to try and get Hamp on, so we'll see if that happens. All right, points for WrestleMania. I thought it was very average up until the main event. So I was going like 5 up until the main event. It was okay. Main event knocked it up a couple pegs. I'm going with a 7 for WrestleMania. The main event is what made it. 7. Pretty good show overall. Main event was amazing. Rest of the show was a glorified Raw. That's how I'll put it. I'm hoping night 2 will be a better undercard. I'm really wanting to see some strong matches. The fact that NXT had killer matches, I mean, that hurt night 1 too, because earlier in the day, you watch all these awesome matches. That Oba Femi main event was fantastic. The women's match blew away Charlotte versus Tiffany. And that's a problem when the NXT, the developmental show, you have them outshining your main roster stars. That's a problem. WrestleMania needs to be destroying NXT. It's WrestleMania. So that's an issue. Seth Rollins sent in a $5 super chat. And by the way, I gave NXT a 9. NXT was awesome. Check out my recap if you missed it. And check out the show. It was really good. It was great. Seth Rollins sent in a $5 super chat and said, future spoiler, Paul Heyman will triple down on low blows once Brock Lesnar returns. It could go full circle. You never know. I mean, once this Vince McMahon legal case is concluded, Perhaps Brock Lesnar will be brought back one day. I don't know. He might be done. He might not have any interest in coming back. But if he ever does come back, they could potentially have Heyman come back to Paul Heyman again, and it goes full circle. Anything's possible. Anything can happen in World Wrestling Entertainment. So thank you for that, Seth Rollins. I appreciate it. It is the stroke of midnight. So on that note, I will go ahead and close up this live stream. It has been a hectic, busy night. We got another day of WrestleMania coming up. So I'm going to try to get a good night's sleep and rest. Much love and appreciation to everybody that tuned into this live stream. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Spread the word. Tell a friend about the NoDQ.com YouTube channel. And check out the No DQ review this Tuesday night. Say yes to No DQ, and I will see you all next time.